Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Sorry for the delay on this one. I'm going to be doing what I can to volunteer for Yang's campaign until the election, so if any episodes are late or skipped, that is why. But I will do my best to keep you updated on pertinent details so you all have time to join me in that. Let's get to business. Quick shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Shay Meehan and Nathan Stankowski, as well as all our other patrons. You keep us all informed and engaged. If any of you out there want to join these advocates of humanity first and independent journalism, head on over to patreon.com/YangDaily. It would only take a couple of bucks a month from each listener to keep this podcast and community going and growing into the future. Now on to the news. The IRS tool for those who don't file taxes is now active. If you are eligible for the child tax credit, or if you didn't receive stimulus checks you were due, you can use the tool to provide the necessary information to the IRS so that you can get them. If you are unsure whether you qualify for the credit, then check the article linked in the podcast description for a guide to eligibility and a calculator to show you how much you are due. It needs to be submitted by July 15th, so get on it today. In an interview on Hugh Hewitt's Republican radio show, McConnell said that he would refuse to let Biden fill a Supreme Court seat in 2024 if Republicans win the Senate next year, based on the same excuse as before. When asked if Democrats would be given a fair hearing for confirming a normal mainstream liberal if a vacancy becomes available in 2023, McConnell said, quote, "We'll have to wait and see what happens," end quote. That means no. In other words, McConnell just straight up said that he will seek to ensure that only Republicans are allowed to choose Supreme Court justices. This is bad. Courts are the last line of defense, aside from revolt, against all sorts of injustice, including autocratic attempts to subvert the balance of powers, and democracy. When courts become partisan, authoritarian government is right around the corner. This is unacceptable in a democracy. We need to establish a selection process that will ensure a balanced court. Liberty depends on that. Have these conversations with people in your life and with your elected representatives. If we do not vote for people who will defend democracy, we will lose it. Speaking of which, interesting snapshot of what's going on in media and politics. PBS had an interview with Putin yesterday. Putin, of course, did his best to undermine the U.S., most notably by asking if Biden ordered Capitol insurrectionist Ashley Babbitt to be assassinated. Obviously, this is designed to inflame partisan division in pursuit of destabilizing the U.S. One would think it toothless for the absurdity of it. Biden wasn't even president at the time, for one. Nevertheless, the Trump cult fell into line and dutifully carried out Putin's desires, spending the day flooding social media with cries for justice for Babbitt, demands that the shooter's name be released, ludicrous comparisons to Floyd's murder, and praise for autocrat Vladimir Putin. The Republican Party serving as the social warfare arm of the Russian military. You can't make this stuff up, but stupid has a way of exceeding imagination. Right-wing media also joined in. You can see a Red State article in the links that reinforces Putin's attack lines, especially attempts to paint Biden as weak. Amusingly, the author notes Putin's peculiar absence of hostility toward the U.S. during Trump's presidency, only to resume afterward, almost as if Putin was pleased with Trump's actions but sees Biden as a threat. For whoever still needs to hear this, Ashley Babbitt was leading a violent mob through the last line of defense between them and our elected representatives, zombie horde style, when she was shot by the only remaining officer. As much as I am for restraint in the use of force, I don't see that the mob gave him much choice in this case. If he let anyone through that window, there was no stopping them from reaching Congress. Babbitt made her choice, and it was a bad one. If the name of Babbitt's shooter were revealed, MAGA would terrorize that man and his family as they have done to many politicians. That is what they are seeking and why the name has not been released. Also worth noting that Democrats pushed for a bipartisan comprehensive investigation of these events, and GOP legislators, with few exceptions, voted against it. All of this, the insurrection included, springs from partisan tribalism, which comes from the way that our political and media systems are designed. It is destroying us, to Putin's delight, And it is why we cannot afford to let our broken system continue as it is, because it can't continue. It is imploding. We must reform the filibuster and pass public campaign and media finance, score or approval voting, multi-member districts, anti-gerrymandering, eliminate party primaries, and other legislation in order to restore true representation and reduce partisan tribalism before it is too late. On to the mayoral race, Yang released a letter today talking about his family's experience with the educational system and what he would change as mayor. His special education policies include improving process transparency, including giving parents access to the special education student information system, an annual survey for families with IEP kids asking what can be done to help, filling resource shortages, including access to classes, staff, and supplies, expansion of support beyond school walls and outreach to parents to help them navigate resources, expansion of successful programs such as AIMS and ASD, holding all schools to the same standards, encouraging team teaching, and an educational opportunity fund providing $1,000 a year to poor families whose kids have individual education plans or are English language learners, usable for services including speech therapy and after-school programs. You can view more details in his policy page linked below. Finally, remember back when I said the Yang campaign was probably done with new ads? I believe it was yesterday? Yeah, I was wrong in record time. There's a new one out today, too, focusing on Yang as anti-establishment, anti-special interest. It's nothing special, but you can check it out in the links below. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the IRS tool and eligibility guide, McConnell's court packing, Putin's manipulations, and Yang's special ed policy. Get on the phones or on the streets for Yang. Flood Congress with calls, tweets, faxes, and letters using the Resist bot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way, and don't forget to Yang Daily.